Hello, everyone. Welcome back for another X-Files episode. This is the episode Beyond the Sea, which is the 13th episode of the first season of the X-Files. This is a Scully-centric episode, and it deals with some pretty heavy issues in her life, specifically the death of her father and the problems and interesting things that has, because in in life, when someone dies, they are gone. Despite what anyone might tell you, having done a lot of research into all these different strange and unusual phenomenons, have found no foolproof or all all-encompassing way of contacting beyond the Great Wall of the Dead. Maybe there's nothing there. Maybe there's a whole nother world that we don't know about. But the truth of the matter simply is, we don't know, and it is one of the um, most interesting things about human existence. Humans have always created different ideas and thoughts about what comes after death. Because the concept of us just dying and being dead doesn't really sit well. As you get older and you realize your own mortality, the thought of ceasing to exist or your consciousness just winking out, it's a kind of hard realization, and everyone wants to believe something will happen. And that something will be positive, of course. Now, I have my own beliefs, and I'm not going to go into them here, but you can make your own decisions on whether or not you believe in anything or nothing. That's fine. You're allowed to make that decision as a person. Anyone can have their own sort of beliefs in this sort of thing. But this episode sort of suggests that in the X-Files universe, at least, there is a beyond. But the afterlife is a little weird place, or at least strange. So we're going to get into it right now. So this deals with Scully had her parents over for dinner. She falls asleep on her sofa after they leave on Christmas Eve, and she wakes up to see her father speaking, kind of like talking, but like not like whisper talking to himself, looking at her. And she tries to get his attention, like to talk to him, and he never really changes his look. And she gets a phone call, and she finds out that her father is dead. And she looks back, and the chair is empty. Her father apparently died of a heart attack. Very tragic for her. Meanwhile, a young couple is kidnapped by a man dressed as a police officer, and this guy Boggs, played by Brad Dourif of all people, who's quite an interesting actor. He really runs the gamut, but he usually plays as some sort of crazy person. He allegedly has an insight into this abduction and specifically wants to get them involved. Mulder actually is the skeptic in this one, and Dana is the believer, which is quite interesting because Mulder helped bust Boggs, basically. He's one of the people that got him in prison. And Mulder just believes that Boggs is working with a man on the outside and basically fucking with Mulder. That's what he honestly believes. Scully, however, wants to believe that there's something beyond. She wants to talk to her father again because when you lose your parents, or really anyone, like if you were close to them at all, there's a hole in you, and you want that to be filled. You want to know that they continue in some form or another. And the truth about that is simply there will never be anything concrete. You can only have your faith. And what gets carried on with them is what you carry with you, taking what they taught you and bringing it on to whatever comes next. But she hasn't gotten to that stage yet. So they're talking with Boggs, and he's telling them about the murder, or about what's going on, and Mulder gives him a piece from a crime scene, and allegedly, and Boggs does his thing, and he tells him, how could you know that? Because that wasn't related to the crime scene at all. That's just that's just something I threw in a bucket, you know? So Mulder doesn't believe it at all, but Scully uses the notices things based on what Boggs was saying, and actually tracks down where the guy was and saves one of the girls. And she believes fully Boggs has this ability. And he explains that he gained the ability to talk to the dead the first time when he was on death row. He was actually in the chair. They were strapping him in when he got basically a stay of execution by the governor. This caused, like, while he was heading there, he literally saw all the souls of all the people he had been responsible for, like, that he had killed. And they were waiting for him to join him on the other side. And when he didn't, they basically possessed him, forming him into sort of like a gestalt. Like he says he died there, and that his body continues going, but it's now a conduit for the spirits. Now, whether or not you believe him, who knows? But suffice to say, when Scully explains this to Mulder, he's kind of pissed because he's like, you could have gone into a trap, you couldn't have gotten yourself killed. I mean, they saved one of the people, but he still has one of the other ones. So Boggs warns them about some of the other stuff. He tells them about, like, this place where if you go there, you will fall. Like, there's this, was it Leering Devil or something like that. He also tells them about, I think Mulder, was it? They go in again, and Mulder gets shot, and the guy escapes. And Mulder's okay. But they talk to Boggs one more time, and he tells them where to go. And Boggs knows. Boggs has been trying to argue for a stay of execution because he doesn't want to die. And the governor doesn't want to hear it. He's not going to stay his execution. So he tells Scully what he wants, what she needs to hear, and tells him not basically like that there'll be a devil, and that if you go past the devil, you'll die. And what ends up happening is they track down the guy, and he runs off into this, like, brewery. And there's, like, a Leering Devil. I forget why. I think it was like a Jersey Devil, like, thing. Or not a devil thing. It was like some devil brewery or something like that. And the boards give out, and he falls to his death. And they save the guy, and Boggs is executed. And Boggs offered that at his execution, he would give Scully the talk with her father if she was there. But she didn't show up and didn't give him the Boggs, and she kind of regrets that because now she doesn't get to talk to her father, but she also kind of feels better because she realizes that she already knew what her father was going to tell her, so it wasn't a big deal. She finally accepts her father's death and understands that he cared for her, even though he didn't particularly care for her choice of work. He still loved her as his daughter. And that's how this kind of episode ends. And I'm going to give this episode a solid 8 out of 10 because it flips the premise on its head, does something a little different. Scully still goes back to being the skeptic afterwards, rationalizing away everything she saw, as a skeptic does once they get into a situation where they can sit down and think about it rationally. But I liked that because it showed that Scully could believe given the right circumstances. But she wasn't inclined to believe most of the time because Mulder was always going off on the, it has to be this crazy idea. And Scully going, well, couldn't it just be something simple? And this time it's like reversed on its head. So she can have that kind of leniency to kind of go out there into the stranger territory because Mulder's the one saying this is just a man fucking with us. I would definitely say this isn't important for overall season arc or myth arc, but it is an interesting episode. It does some plot development with Scully. You get to meet her mom, you get to meet her dad, even if briefly. And it is one of the few real character development. Well, I don't say few character development because the characters do develop over the season, but character-centric, we'll say, episodes of this season. Definitely check it out if you're interested in kind of that sort of thing at all. But it is not necessary to watch if you're watching it just for the myth arc, sort of government conspiracy stuff. All right, folks, that's all for now, but tune in next time when we deal with a very strange episode, Gender Bender. All right, catch you in that.